Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Red-Rupee here with you, as always, tonight bringing you some Dawn of War 2 Elite Mod action. We've got a great matchup here tonight. FitzRupee as the purple Eldar Warp Spider on the blue team, facing off against BugaBuga. Oh, that's a fun name to say, BugaBuga, as the Kommando Nob for the red team, the Orcs over there. Orcs on Eldar action. Should be a fun matchup. Warp Spider, of course, has lots of options with his teleport. He's notorious for keeping the map control under heavy duress for his opponent. And of course he has some late game really excellent support and control options, things like the heavy gauge death spinner for that Kommando Nob if he becomes a nuisance, or any major orc melee forces can get locked down by entangling web, and of course the big bad phase shift. So we'll have to see if he wants to do that or maybe get down and dirty with some power blades. It all depends how the game will progress. Both players just getting their natural power and requisition, no fancy cap orders so far. Banshees on the field, double shooters for BugaBuga. Looks like the Kommando Nob's opting not to go for that early victory point pressure, getting that central node. Instead, he's getting stealth, looking for some trouble. He found it too. He's got some Dire Avengers out here capping that secondary power point for the Eldar forces. Goes in nice and close for a stun bob. They might get out from under it, but it looks like, oh no, it tags those two trailing models. Banshees moving away from that Kommando Nob, don't want to get shot up there. Both of these heroes can actually rip through their opponent's infantry squads fairly quickly. They're both fairly high and difficult to engage DPS heroes. So these light infantry squads, both shooters, sluggers, Dire Avengers, and Banshees, can all get ripped up pretty quickly by these heroes' base weapons. Sluggers under a little duress from those Banshees, but they hop on into that guard tower. No big deal. Kommando Nob's out here to support if the time comes. But as of right now, Warp Spider is bouncing around on the back lines already, getting some decaps on Orc requisition. Looks like the Orcs are trying to figure out how to engage those Banshees, but they're just playing a little ring around the rosy here on this mill kind of structure on the eastern side of the map. Warp Spider taking some fire from double shooters. Now first power expenditure for the Orcs and big shooters onto the field. Warp Spider getting very low. He's kind of microing down here with these Banshees, who looks like they've been ripping apart some Orc Sluggers. Unfortunately, Kommando Nob not quite getting the... Oh man, completely whiffs the throw. Loses his Sluggaz. Can't really throw that thing uphill sometimes. Got to be very careful with that stun bomb if you're on a cliff face like we just saw right there. Unfortunately, an early loss for BugaBuga, getting those Sluggaz right back. Doesn't even hesitate. He did manage to get a generator up before that happened, but you can see there's two generators down for FitzRupee so far. And of course, we're seeing that first intrinsic Guardian Weapons team for the Eldar, and coming up shortly behind them, some Rangers onto the field, getting that victory point down in the center while there's nothing on the field. No harm in using your setup squad to do some capping if you know the field is clear, but you never want to leave it out there undefended like it is without something out there to support it. Of course, the Guardian Weapons team, one of the quicker setup teams, not nearly as painfully slow as Space Marine Devastators, for instance. Anyways, another scuffle happening over here. Let's see if the Banshees do their job once again. This time it went a little more painfully as they get hacked up by those Sluggaz, and now the Guardians, or rather Dire Avengers, suffering the same fate. Two Banshees go down and a Dire Avenger for their trouble. But looks like Rangers down on this side of the map starting to earn themselves a couple kills. One shooter boy going down and then getting the kinetic shot just in time to deny that capture, as the Warp Spider does engage in melee and can beat these these shooter boys in melee with his default blades there. Good multifaceted hero, that Warp Spider. Big pain. Nice stun bomb going down on the Guardian Weapons team. Instantly has to retreat in the face of that Kommando Nob. And oh man, this is actually a build I've seen FitzRupee do a couple times against me, and it can be very frustrating. These Rangers, now that they do courage damage, with two Rangers you can almost spot suppress any squad of your choosing, so it's going to be very hard for the Orcs to approach this without taking some pretty heavy losses. We can see the Pathfinder gear coming down for both of them. Stormboyz coming out for BugaBuga. He did see the first squad of Rangers, so he's probably reacting with these Stormboyz, and I'm sure he's probably not quite sure that there's two squads yet, but he's getting that center VP, trying to stem that loss of victory points. It is looking pretty good for him, a 2-0 cap, and he's already got almost a 100-point lead in this early stage of the game. Of course, he's going to have to hold that, which is going to be very difficult against the Warp Spider. He's been jumping all over the place. So far, though, BugaBuga doing a pretty good job. He's kept the requisition at least even up so far, but now with these two Rangers out here, it's going to have to be careful with that Kommando knob. You could take a lot of fire from this dual sniper position. Unfortunately, that second squad wasn't quite firing yet. Perhaps he's trying to not reveal that he has two. I'm not sure why he's holding them back yet. But the first squad out in the open against upgraded shooter boys. Both big shooters now, and now a knob on the field for those shooters as well to help identify the location of those Rangers. And with those Rangers, of course, coming out, the Kommando knob's going to have a much harder time sneaking around and being a nuisance. Everything gets suppressed. A big orb blob getting suppressed right there, taking some fire from the shuriken cannon and those Rangers. Lost a shooter boy, but it's no matter because these Stormboyz got in there rough. Might take out these Rangers, but it looks like that last model is going to escape. He pulls them off the sides. They're better used elsewhere in the WOG here. Unfortunately, Dire Avengers got in a little bit of trouble there. Might have almost lost those. They are going to have to retreat through the Stormboyz, but oh man, he doesn't even pull the Stormboyz off. He really wants to make sure those Banshees don't get in on the shooter boys, which is probably understandable, but he probably could have gotten at least a model or so off of there and then got on the Banshees. Used a little bit of red to suppress them with the shooter boys, but either way, a nice solid engagement there for BugaBuga. Once again, claiming the map for himself, almost a full Eldar retreat there. Just now, the first squads that fell back, getting back onto the field. He is going to look like be able to get down this natural wreck, which has matured to 30. It's always good to get those natural points down, even maybe at the sake of a model, because it will slow your opponent down, it will cut their requisition income pretty sharply. Taking away 30 rec a minute, even if it's just, you know, that's worth losing a model, perhaps two, depending on how long you think they'll be from recapping that point. 381 to 468 right now, 2-0 cap yet again. These orcs are all over the map. Heading into tier 2 now on top of that, so this is looking pretty solid. Not far ahead of PhatE, but just enough that it might make a difference depending on what he chooses to get early. Something like a quick war truck with those Sluggaz and Stormboyz could be a real nightmare for the Eldar and lead to a gen bash pretty quickly if PhatE doesn't react quickly. I always want to call him Fate, but he's told me his name is PhatE. That E is capitalized for a reason, darn it, so say it right. Shuriken getting the cap once again on that central point. Sluggaz, oh man, look at all these shooter boys crammed into that cliffside garrison right there. There's a lot of orcs in one tiny building with only 3 windows. Not really going to be maximizing those deeps hanging out in there. Stormboyz now, you can see, already upgraded with the knob for the storms. Sluggaz don't have it quite yet. These Dire Avengers a bit too brazen, unfortunately, getting caught out of position by shooter boys and these Stormboyz on top of that. Warp Spider completely not upgraded so far, and yep, here comes the quick war truck, so that's going to hit the field just after PhatE hits tier 2, so it's not going to be terribly ahead in tech advantage, but still, a quick truck can always be really difficult to deal with if you don't see it coming. The Rangers, of course, being kind of the main long-range firepower for the orcs so far in this game, aren't going to be able to do anything to that truck, even though it is a very lightly armored transport. There's just no anti-vehicle on the field. The only real option he has at the moment is to either upgrade the Banshees with their X-Arc and the aspect of strength, or go for a Bright Lance on this Guardian Weapons team. Of course, the Warp Spider could go for the Power Blades, but I'm not sure that's a great idea with the amount of ported melee that's on the field. I don't think he can really still compete with things like upgraded Stormboyz or Sluggaz, even with the Power Blades, but we'll see what PhatE goes for. Banshees now closing in on the Stormboyz. All these shooter boys hanging out in the guard tower, but there's Dire Avengers here ready with the grenade. I think they can hang out in there. They have enough HP that it shouldn't be a problem. Stormboyz, however, getting pushed way back there. They're not up here to support the shooters, and unfortunately that led to both squads having to retreat. I think that PhatE actually could have won that engagement pretty easily. He's got the Stormboyz over here. I guess he has to be aware of bleeding these guys too much. That's something that orcs tend to do when they do have the truck. A whiff on that Dire Avenger grenade, unfortunately for PhatE. But yeah, BugaBuga could definitely have taken that engagement, I feel like, if he had been a little more careful, not fully retreating those shooter boys, and he would have those squads on the field to now decap or continue decapping this side of the map. Because as you can see right now, everything's very, very red for the orcs. You can see look at the requisition difference, 340 to 198. He's getting over 100 more requisition per minute right now. There is a Falcon on the field. BugaBuga's gonna have to get himself a little bit of anti-vehicle of his own. Ooh, Mega Boom kit and Kaboom coming down for the Kommando Nob. I hope we see a little bit of that action, but the way this game's going, it might be over before long because it's a triple cap against our Eldar player PhatE, and the points are ticking down quickly. Almost a 200-point advantage right now for BugaBuga, and this Guardian weapons team, man, he loves capturing the center point, but it's not been working out for him these past couple times. The Stormboyz aren't going to let him have it for free, so they get pushed off relatively easily right there. Falcon almost gets himself a lucky kill on this Kommando Nob, but the Kommando Nob decides to fall back. Looks like the Kaboom was canceled there at the last second for the Kommando Nob upon seeing the Falcon recognizing that he probably shouldn't be blasting himself into just about anywhere. Oh no! Warp Spider goes down on the far side, had just started upgrading those power blades. That's an expensive upgrade to be stuck without all of that power suddenly now. Once a hero goes down, if they were upgrading something, you can't, unfortunately, cancel that upgrade, so it's just sitting there unused for the time being. Falcon tank gets a nice early kill on that Orc war truck. You really got to upgrade that armor once a Falcon or something like that hits the field, because that Falcon, as we saw, can singularly eliminate that light transport without much issue. That pulse laser does do anti-vehicle damage, so it can take out that lightly armored war truck pretty easily. Everyone knows that orcs armor their war trucks with paper mache, so they should really probably upgrade that to, you know, at least cardboard for your war trucks. So Kommando Nob with the special shooter now, man, this is one of my favorite guns in the game. I love shotguns anyways, but that explosive shell on that shotgun is so solid. Good reaction. I'm not sure if that was intentional or whether he was just chasing the Kommando Nob right there, but he managed to dodge a tank buster barrage freshly on the field, and that's always the best time to get a kill on a light transport, is when they don't know those tank busters are there. You can get in a volley and follow it up with maybe one last round of shots from those tank busters, but suddenly looking pretty good for the Eldar. That Falcon's been doing some hurt in these past couple engagements, and now the Guardians and Banshees capping the back line of BugaBuga. Looks like Kaboom is going to be coming on the field for the Kommando Nob, so he will be able to activate that large, big, nasty explosion and potentially take out some of these Eldar without launching himself potentially deep into enemy lines where those Banshees might be lying in wait to finish him off. So good to have that combination of war gears, of course. Of course, if this game goes long and the Falcon's still up, he's probably going to be wanting to get himself a nice rocket launcher. I'm surprised he doesn't even maybe get a second truck here, because those tank busters and a truck could pretty easily take out the Falcon. It's not as easy, of course, as taking out something like a Chimera or a Razorback, since the Falcon can do anti-vehicle damage, but those tank busters alone should be enough to really pressure this Falcon, and if not keep it on the map, but outright destroy it. But instead, looks like BugaBuga's gonna go into tier 3. Oh man, and is PhatE, is this intentional, or is that a mistake? Getting that second Falcon onto the field here soon. A 2-0 cap against BugaBuga right now, and Hide the Boys was used on these Sluggaz, but of course with the 2 Rangers on the field, it's not gonna happen. They're gonna take a lot of fire, trying to activate, swamp them, and get in there. Nice grenade dodge, but there's just too much range firepower over here. They're gonna have to retreat and get the heck out of there. A pretty formidable foe, this Falcon, and did the second one come out? Yes, it did. So we have dual Falcons on the field and dual Rangers. Not sure if that was Overwatch or intentional, but I don't know. 2 Falcons is pretty great. They are a nice solid anti-infantry force, and they do counter vehicles, especially with 2 of them. You can take vehicles out pretty quickly without much headache, so we can see them just ripping apart these Stormboyz. Got to be very careful with these Stormboyz, because they are not cheap to reinforce. Lots of Orc players, of course, endearingly call them bleed boys, because they do cause so much wreck and power bleed if you're not careful with them, so you really have to try to minimize your Stormboy losses throughout the game. Of course, it seems simple to say that, but a lot of Orc players especially, I was saying, even with that truck, will go hard in with those Stormboyz and lose 3 or 4 models just to force off a heavy weapon squad or something like that, and that is oftentimes not the way you want to play it. Kommando Nob getting spotted, and it doesn't look like BugaBuga realizes at the moment he's just heading on in, because he's microing back at base trying to get these Banshees under control. But looks like, oh no, it actually gets the cap and hides away, gets from out of sight of those ranger squads and manages to maybe get himself a sneaky decap. I'm not sure he's going to be getting out of there, unfortunately. Grenade goes down, doesn't quite connect, 30 HP, and it looks like, very fortunately for BugaBuga, who I don't think paid attention at all, that Kommando Nob was just sent to cap that point. Manages to get him home anyway, so a bit of a blunder there by BugaBuga, but he's not punished for it. Heading into Tier 3, PhatE is surprisingly, PhatE doesn't have any warp spiders on the field. He has the red for it, and I think it would have been worth maybe getting a squad at this stage in the game, but those double Falcons maybe decidedly enough to stop these orcs on their own. I love warp spiders against orcs though, man, and I think, yeah, actually, the last big 3-on-3, or the 2-on-2 I casted, they were saying the Eldar should have gotten some warp spiders to deal with those dual orcs, but instead they fast tech, but not a fast tech here, not with double Falcon. But and man, those Falcons are going to be a huge headache once you hit Tier 3. BugaBuga, I think, kind of getting a little flustered here in the later stages of the games. He's got squads kind of around the map and not completely up on his micro. This is the second time on the Western victory point that he's kind of flubbed a little bit and let his squads get engaged by melee, where he really should have been on top of it and been able to get it under control. BugaBuga in Tier 3 getting a Nob squad. Now, he did see the double Falcon. I'm almost positive that he saw both of those. So I think the Nob squad is actually a poor decision right here. I think between the Rangers, suppression, their knockback, and now these two Falcons, which can kite around pretty effectively, I don't think Nobs are the way you want to go. I think he should have gotten a looted tank right here. I mean, I know I'm always a proponent for getting more tanks onto the field, but man, especially now that the Falcons have these energy shields, you really want a vehicle or an anti-vehicle threat that can chase these guys down if you catch them out of position, because tank busters just aren't going to be enough on their own. Hopefully we'll be seeing the Kommando Nob get his rocket launcher and help that out right now on top of that. But right now, 189 to 234. It's still anyone's game, and with these Falcons now getting their energy shields, they are going to be a nightmare to get off of the field, especially with most of their anti-vehicle being melee focused, with the Stormboyz, with the Nobs. Of course, the tank busters are on the field, but they can get forced off so very easily, or simply suppressed by the Rangers if they get focus fired by both squads. But right now it looks like both squads of Rangers are kind of being kept spread out. Maybe keep one in each Falcon to keep it from getting surprise attacked by something like that rocket launcher. But we have a nice flank coming in here right now on the Falcon. The Falcon's trying to maneuver and stay out of grasp of those Nobs. Those big Nob hammers can rip apart that thing, even with those shields. They don't have their hammer upgrade, but even those default chain axes, you can see, ripped right through the shield. Started doing some damage to the hull of that thing, but it is going to be able to kite away. Warp Spider does have the power blades, which, again, I feel like not necessarily the greatest purchase at this stage. And now getting knocked on his back by that special shooter. Nobs running around, and see, this is exactly what I was concerned with. The Nobs just aren't going to be able to move around. Even with Frenzy, you can see the kinetic shot knocks them back. Warp Spider now coming in here. And they do manage to zone out that Guardian Weapons team. They get right in its face and force it off. Banshees almost get eliminated right here as well. The Nobs could easily turn around and finish them off. Let's see if they choose to do so. No, they evacuate just before the Banshees enter their range of melee. Tank busters and shooters now moving in, putting more pressure on the forward-facing Dire Vendors and Rangers. But now with both of these Falcons out here, again, there's nothing they can do. That's too much vehicle health for just tank busters to threaten. They can just push up pretty much fearlessly against a lone squad of anti-vehicle. Kommando Nob went down on the point there in the center, it looks like. Stormboyz on the far side, capping some points, 152 to 227. The points are still ticking down. PhatE has pretty much consistently been on the back end of the VPs, but at this stage in the game, I think he can probably start switching that around pretty quickly. These Falcons are relatively uncontested at the moment. We do see the Kommando now went down while he was upgrading the rocket launcher. So again, this is 150 requisition and 50 power that right now I bet, yeah, that could go completely towards a looted tank. In just a few moments he'd be able to purchase that if he didn't have that rocket launcher stuck on a downed hero. So that's twice now. You really got to be careful when you're upgrading, and you don't, if that hero's going to go down quickly, select that hero and cancel that upgrade, put that requisition and resource towards something else. Because right now, he couldn't even use that until he then spent the 250 rec to get him back on the field. And now, because of that, he doesn't have a looted tank, which I think he desperately needs against this setup. Even if the Eldar player goes for a Bright Lance or something like that. Ooh, phase shift going down here. We do see phase shift. Oh, wow, and the Stormboyz can actually jump out of that. Interesting. I did not know that that was a thing that could happen. It's possible maybe one of the Stormboyz was out of the phase shift area of effect, but as it stands right now, they got out of there, got away from the Banshees. Meanwhile, Orcs moving in on the far side, again taking just heavy losses, trying to approach this Eldar position. There's just so much range firepower now. The dual Rangers, the Dire Avengers fully upgraded now, level 2, and of course that Guardian Weapons team keeping things relatively under control. Nobs are trying to move in. We do have the Kommando Nob on the front side with the rocket launcher, but again, just not seeing how these Nobs can move in against all of this. The kinetic shots on those Rangers, keeping them relatively under control. Looks like they are going to be able to snag this setup team, though. Still a solid kill. Allows a lot more open movement for these guys, and if something else does come onto the field, we'll have to see a repurchase of more suppression or a Bright Lance shortly thereafter. Huge hammers getting upgraded now for the Nobs, trying to get these Rangers under control, but you can see they keep getting suppressed now that both of those Rangers are able to focus them down, and then that constant DPS from the Falcon ripping through their HP, even though not super rapidly. I mean, you can see even after that long engagement, they're only at about half HP, but they would have started bleeding quickly, and BugaBuga does not have the requisition to deal with that sort of thing. 2-0 cap against him right now, 204 to 112, and the match could be quickly turning around. Banshees getting caught out of position against these Stormboyz. Level 3 Banshees versus level 2 Stormboyz, and the special attacks are proving why you want that extra level. Getting those special attacks matters so much in melee scuffles. One Stormboy dying on landing there, didn't quite make it out, but his jetpack did. Kommando Nob still trying to, oh man, goes down again. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any use of Big Boom or that explosives pack right here either. Two Shooter Boy squads now trying to retreat, realizing, of course, they cannot under the effects of phase shift. Oh, and there it is, the classic phase shift Eldritch Storm going to, oh man, that's one squad down. Will it get both squads? It looks like one of them will escape, but that was one Shooter Boy down and a lot of requisition lost on the other squad, and BugaBuga's trying to struggling just to keep his squads reinforced at this point, let alone bring new squads onto the field. Losing the Shooter Boy and that second one getting heavily damaged isn't going to be doing great for him. Again, these dual Falcons, man. I don't know how he's going to deal with that. Both Falcons are level 2 now. And it's only going to get worse, especially with the Kommando Nob down once again. The War Spider, of course, sacrificed himself for that squad kill. But I think 250 rec for a fully upgraded Shooter Boy squad and a bunch more rec for that other squad that lost all its models. But the Nob, probably completely worth it. Oh, wow, and a Fire Prism on the field now, too. This heavy vehicle play, 3 Eldar hover tanks now on the field. The Fire Prism, of course, this crazy long-range platform. Doesn't matter if you've got Frenzy or not, you're not going to be able to decap that point with only 60 points remaining and a triple cap against them. I'm not sure how BugaBuga is going to get out of this position. Ooh, almost losing that Falcon to a barrage there until he activated that shield. Of course, we're seeing exactly what I was afraid of. These tank busters without a truck or any real reinforcement support just aren't enough to pressure these Falcons at all. Fire Prism doing what it can, but there's just another phase shift. The Warp Spider just buying time at this point, and the entirety of the Eldar forces moving in on BugaBuga's natural VP. 32 to 112, and those victory points for the Eldar haven't gone down in the past several minutes of the game, and everything's just looking almost closed out here suddenly for the Orc player. There's just not a lot that BugaBuga can do. He was doing so well in the early game and just kind of fell apart in these final few minutes, and I think in Tier 3 he made a poor decision on his squad and then rebought his hero when I think he really should have gone for a tank. But there goes the GG. It looks like that's going to be it with a 1-0 cap and 10 points remaining. There's no way that BugaBuga can do anything without anything onto the field. And that's a victory for PhatE. Some really great Ranger use right there. Double Rangers can be such a headache, especially now that they suppress. I know I mentioned that a couple times, but it can be very powerful to just be able to suppress a squad on demand and keep keep that deeps rolling in. And oh, look at this. This is goofy. It looks like the Falcon shield is over here, but the Falcon lost his shield, guys. He misplaced it. Someone let him know where it's hanging out. It's right over here. But Nobs. Oh man, Nobs, we missed out. Oh, they almost got the moral victory at the end. He shouldn't have conceded. He should have gotten that fire prism before those victory points ticked out. You gotta go for those moral victories at the end. It's always frustrating to be in these games where you have it so under control and then it just feels like for no reason it suddenly slips away from you in the last several minutes of the game. But it's just very important to assess what threats are on the field and the best way to deal with them. And unfortunately for BugaBuga, I just don't think he got the anti-vehicle that he needed to push these Falcons back. But woo, good game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Oh, speaking of, before you guys disappear, the monthly Rumble tournament number 20, there's 20 of these things now, is happening this Saturday, November 20-something. I don't know. It's happening this Saturday. I don't know what date it is, but it's happening 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I believe that's 5 p.m. GMT, if I remember correctly. But it should be a pretty great time. I'm going to be casting that. Of course, I will likely have a co-caster with me, either Codex, Cyrus, or someone along those lines to help me out throughout the day. It's always a good time. Stop by my stream on Twitch and get some DoW2 live action. And beyond that, just send me your replay. Keep them coming. Keep watching. Hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment. I love hearing from you folks. This is Red-Rupee. I'll be catching you guys next time.